All right, what is up, guys? What is happening? Good Friday to everybody. It's February 2nd, 2018. We are in year two of a weird time in our world. One, of course, being CSGO is one of the leading esports now, like breaking records. 1.3, what was it? 1.3, 1.4 million, right?
1 point,
Just ridiculous numbers.
I think.
It's a perfect time. I am GZ Logic. Obviously, I want to welcome you guys to the quad. We are back for the spring. Joining me to my right is the number one pride of Canada, and the UBC Hope, Mahone. How's it going? Yeah, I don't know. Well, like our Discord cams are all over the place. He's to my right, so at least on the quad overlay. How are you doing?
What's up, guys? I'm doing good, Daniel.
How's
And
how's UBC doing? How are your weeks going? Obviously, I see you on almost a weekly basis because of casting side, but how's everything outside of the casting realm?
I think UBC's just they're just killing it right now. I mean, what can I say? I don't even need to really do anything, really.
It is true.
So,
It is true. All right, below me, we have another pride of Canada. Joining us, another caster, writer, really a savant of all collegiate esports right now is Zach, aka Crackshot. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How is everybody else?
Good, good, good. We found somebody streaming today with a second monitor, so we could actually get your camera on there today.
Yeah, that's good. And I mean, sorry about the guys. I'm working, getting it fixed. Things were like 2007, but at least my face is here this time.
Yep. And joining us to the bottom right side of things is one of the lead braggers of round differences this year. From CU Boulder Esports, we have Soulgoat. How's it going, buddy?
It's going well. How are you?
What year are you right now in CU?
I am in my sophomore year right now.
Sophomore year? Where
Yeah.
did you have to stay in the dorms in freshman year?
Yeah, for whatever reason, CU makes it's mandatory to stay in the
It is.
dorms.
I went there my freshman year. Where did you? What dorm did you stay in?
Williams Village, the one that's off campus by like
That
a
one?
mile and a half.
Oh
It was
god,
great.
that one. It's kind of great, kind of cool. But I remember I was when I stayed there, I stayed in Sewell, so the one like right next to the rec center and right next to the hill.
The
and
best
all.
one, pretty
Yeah,
much.
pretty much the best one. Really spoiled locations, like right next to the football stadium, the rec center had the best cafeteria, all like the hill, the nightlife, and all of that. And so I remember my days at CU proudly. Kind of like only half of them actually, realistically, but it was a fun time up there while it lasted. So. Today we're going to be talking about CSGO today, and we have a little minor slew of topics. Today we're going to talk about kind of the CU esports side of things on the CSGO end. We're going to look at as well some of the fall standings, and then we're going to look over to the spring side and some of the spring predictions for our playoffs coming up as well. So I guess first and foremost, while we have you here, SoulGoat, of course, to me, at least historically, there was a small point in time in like 2011, 2010 when actually all of the Colorado teams were doing incredibly well. They played StarCraft. That was kind of the main focal point, and League of Legends was coming up. But you had Mines, you had CU, you had CSU, you had UCCS, you had all these teams, and it was like a really thriving environment in Colorado with all of these teams. And then there was kind of this dead space between like 2012 to like 2014, 15, where it sort of almost died off and Colorado esports fell into a little bit of a slump. But recently, over the past couple of years, especially with a game like CSGO, you guys have kind of built the program, I want to say, sort of back up, because even this year, not only do you have one of the best teams in the CSL, but you have actually one of the best Division 2 teams too as well, that are performing really well this year. How have you guys been able to kind of form that together over the past couple of years?
Well, I think for a few years, like kind of college esports just kind of hit a bit of a slump or just dipped down a bit in general. So I feel like a lot of people, especially in Colorado, just kind of didn't really know that there were college teams that even existed. So what we've just been working on this last year and a half or so, we've just been trying to get the word out as much as we can, and like try to grow the esports club and just gaming in general around the Colorado campuses. So that's how we've been able to get our Boulder teams going, pretty much. Like, I think last year we ended up making a lot of roster changes just because we had like 5 people to work with all season, and then we found more and more people as the season progressed. Now we've started to kind of like find everyone on campus. I actually like and like make sure I get the word out sufficiently so that like everyone on campus that's interested at least knows about it. And I feel like that's why we've been able to have a much more successful season here.
Now, you guys have obviously two solid rosters already. Do you guys even have enough probably to say to like build a third one if you wanted to at this point?
I'm not sure because there's the slight issue just that people don't necessarily want to be on like a third tier roster in general. It's like not necessarily as appealing as being on like the main team or even on a secondary team. And then also, it's kind of hard to find people that are looking to have like. It's easy to find people that are interested in maybe being on a team and like playing Counter Strike, but it's hard to find people that actually have the time to commit to it. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to make a third one or not.
I feel it. I feel it. But at least you guys, you know, you probably have the foundation for even next year. It's one of those things you kind of have to look at from year to year, probably rather than really long term. Are you guys in any way, shape, or form informed about the whole pack movement and joining kind of the pack, the 11 teams that joined that conference this past couple weeks?
I myself am not super informed about it because Monty, who is the head of our esports club, and he's kind of been spearheading that or all the talks with them for us. We do know, unfortunately, I don't think they're doing Counter Strike yet because they don't think they'll be able to get approval from schools, or they won't really be able to get the support from schools if they do that. So they're trying to stick with like the Blizzard games, for example, like Overwatch and Hearthstone, as well as League.
I think it will, though, at some point in time. Obviously, CSGO is a big lead and one of the more popular games, at least options in the whole entire scene at the moment. But in regards to kind of Colorado, too, as well, do you see generally like the whole Colorado scene sort of growing? Obviously, there's not a hell of a lot, I want to say, on the CSGO side in terms of teams. You have several playing on the D2 level, like UCCS is playing down at D2. I think Mines is playing down in D2 as well. Would you want to see some of these teams try to work their way up and play in D1 just to kind of rebuild that whole entire atmosphere that you usually see in other games, like League of Legends especially? It has pretty much all those teams in the varsity level playing right now currently for all the Colorado teams, from CSU to CU to UCCS and all of those teams. So is it just one of those things right now where you want to see the other teams as well kind of join you guys at the top level and get some kind of good rivalries back and going?
Yeah, I personally would love to see it. Rivalries are always really fun to play just because you can talk shit pretty much. And
CSGO, yeah.
That's hard.
Plus, so I think it will happen pretty soon because I mean I know last season like CSU, School of Mines, and Colorado Springs, I don't think any of them even had a Division II team. So I think they're just trying to get their programs started up again, or just started up in general. And I think like once they have some time, they'll be able to actually like get their programs up and running at a Division I level.
I really hope they do, because right now like we have like the really one of our big rivalries obviously is all the UC schools, and then so many like Arizona State. So if we could get like a CU CSU one, it would just crack me up seeing like hashtag it sucks to be a CSU Ram or something like that pop up in chat. I'd probably just die laughing just because of personal tradition. I would know about that as well. So but yeah, no, I think right now at least like CU as a team, do you guys feel like you're in a good place getting into the fall and the spring side of things? Do you guys feel like you're living up to your expectations? Do you guys need to do better? Obviously, based off your round differences, there's not like that much room to be that much better. But how do you guys feel right now, like cohesively as a team and growing and where you're at?
I feel like we're doing really well right now. I feel like in terms of how the team's doing right now, I feel like we can try to get a little bit better. I'm hoping we can improve a decent amount before playoffs and just like iron out all these kinks we're having on our maps and just get our team play improving. And then as far as like how we've done so far, I feel like we've done really well. We had a bit of a easy group in the first semester with, I think Maryville was like the only like kind of strong team, but other than that, I didn't really feel like we had any really challenging teams. So I've been really happy with how this semester started, because I know Georgia State have a pretty strong team, and UOIT's team isn't bad either. Then I'm excited to play Toronto and ESA. I think that'll be a really fun game.
Yeah, you guys got. I think the whole group would agree here that you guys have a much tougher group compared to your first half of the year. Even I remember back when we were making predictions, I think we just said CU by a landmark would most likely take it with Maryville trailing. If I remember that correctly, I don't think we were too wrong.
I think that was the
consensus. Yep.
yeah, that's where we were at.
Well, it warms my heart knowing that, CU esports is growing. Obviously, this is a really weird region too as well because we're technically like CU's part of the western side of things, but it's still like in the Colorado Rockies areas close to the Midwest where there's still, there's that weird fringe of like where esports needs to grow a little bit more, but it's like a great location, so it's almost a bit of a surprise that it's not better than it is. We just got too many people hiking and going outside and doing stuff. We don't have enough people just sitting indoors all day.
Yeah.
Like we're not that cold where we're like up north where we have to feel like we need to stay inside, and we're not like out too far west where it's warm enough where we constantly need to stay inside from getting burned. So like it's a weird nice like life balance where we can't just play games all day, right?
Yeah, it's
right.
it's kind of annoying.
You're just like no, we just stay inside all day anyways.
You guys got some good hockey teams.
We do. Avs are hot right now. Avs are they're kind of hot. They're a little bit hot. Zach,
Shane was the problem.
I know. Zach Mahone, do you guys have any questions for at least the CU side of things?
I'll let you go. I mean, I don't really have. I have like a few things. I mean, how do you feel about me slotting you at 4th on the power rankings? Like, do you think you deserve to be higher? Like, I'd like to hear what you had to say about it. I know you tweeted me about it.
Yeah, well, I think we should be number 3 right now, personally, above UBC. Because
Above UBC, yeah. See, this is
I
what I
already,
wanted
I
to
already
start
hear
right
it.
here.
I see it coming.
for the sole reason that we actually managed to get a scrim, because we usually don't scrim them because we scrim at different times. We actually managed to scrim them like last week on Overpass. We beat them like 16-10 with like a 13-2 CT side. So I think we should definitely be ahead of them. Just saying.
Okay.
I'm not denying that happened because I heard about it from my team. They're just like, dude, we lost a Boulder, man. That's what they messaged me.
That's a rivalry in the making right there. It doesn't even like you guys aren't even all that close together.
Actually, to be fair, like even last year we played each other in the regular season, and I think the year before that, I'm not sure if you were on the team at that time, Solgo, but I think we also played each other in the regular season as well. So it's like I think UBC and Boulder have actually played each other quite a bit, considering like we're not really that close in region.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's good though. I wanted to include Boulder higher, like for the same reason that UCF is up my neck right now. They like your records are really good. Your round differentials are always really good. Like you said, you had a bit of not a hard group in the first half. So I mean, like I said, I'm gonna say the same thing to you guys that I said to UCF. You know, prove me wrong.
Well,
I gotta write a song about Florida if they beat everybody in the top 10 list, though. So that's the bet now.
I mean, I kind of argue here a little bit that UCF, like some of their results aren't nearly as like convincing. Like you see some of their wins and some of their losses, like they're not. Like, they're not blowouts and they're like all close games. So
as much as I hate the idea in like college football's playoffs, like strength of schedule. I don't really like that idea as like being a thing. I understand that it has to be because of the nature of like regions and that kind of thing. But
yeah, don't you hate when don't you hate when SEC schools have to play SEC schools? You know,
I don't watch college football all that much. I mean, go blue, but whatever.
Don't. All I'm gonna say is don't walk down that alley. I'll meet you there all the way. You're not gonna want to cross my path on that one.
No, I
do understand your point though, but again, with college esports, I think we're still trying to figure out who the good teams are, who the better teams are. So you have to take a little bit of an assumption of skill level, schedule strength of what you can to in terms of rank them. So when we were looking at it last year, obviously some of the Western conferences, some of the Northern conferences obviously had a little bit of a more murderer's road that they had to go through in the fall side of things. But now because of that, some of them got into weaker conferences in the spring, and so when you talk about strength of schedule, it would actually be hurt by that. Even though they had a good fall, somebody like CU was hurt by it in the fall, but now I feel like it's a much better schedule for you guys to be more, I guess, better evaluated, and you guys are responding well, so nobody can say that CU's not an actual top team here in the CSL right now.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is like I don't really think UCF has had that same kind of challenge put in front of them. The teams that they're beating are teams that they should be beating, and I don't really like see a match against any of those teams on the top 10. Like I could see it being like 16-8 for any of those teams.
They'll have a good test. I think we'll know here next week. They're going to be playing Ryerson on stream, so we're gonna get a good true test of seeing if they can handle what they can handle.
Chilled Den is nuts. So if they can, I don't. What's the map this week?
Overpass for them.
Okay,
that
well,
one-
Would it be? I thought
They
it was just
might win.
Overpass.
It's a week 3 game in the spring, but
Okay.
they swapped it with their week 4 and
Oh,
scheduled
okay,
it ahead
okay.
of time. So that's why we had them with North Carolina State this week.
well, I mean,
so.
they could, yeah, they could do it. I don't know. Like I said, I think Boulder's had the test, and I think that they are going to go far because they can compete with all the teams on that list. I think UCF, like once they face that kind of adversity, they'll have to prove me wrong whether they can actually do it.
How do you feel, CU? I was talking about you like right here, like you're in the third person. Do you believe that CU has what it takes to be CU, one of the top teams?
I think we can definitely be one of the top teams, and I'm really hoping that we can make it to the LAN this year. That being said, though, we've had a really bad history with bracket draws. We drew 5N first round last year. We were like, I think we like put up one of the best performances against them on an individual map at least last season, but we still drew against them first round, so came in like 6th or 17th to 32nd, and then in other competitions we also had really bad bracket draws.
I
so
would
I'm a
say
bit nervous.
this. Well, I would say with this year, your guys' bracket draw I think is going to look a lot better than previous years, just based off of
for
your
sure.
performance if it continues. But but it's nice again. Warms my heart to see how well you guys are doing. As you know, I can't really fanboy too much, but I'm obviously happy to see anytime Colorado gaming and esports grows as it does and performs well on top of that. All right, guys, let's move along so we don't make this a 5-hour show like we actually did last year at some point. Let's look at some of the standings over the past year, or at least the fall semester side of things, if you guys want to prop that up. And if you don't have that link, Zach or Mahone can link it because I can't move the Discord cameras. I just realized I was about to link
I
it.
actually no, I already put it, but I accidentally put the spring standings, so I put the fall ones now.
All right. The East 3, we're looking at a Baruch finished on top with RIT New York trailing them at 5-2. Obviously, nobody doubted Baruch being able to perform as well as they did. RIT did really well as well. I think maybe the surpriser is New York actually in 3rd place with 5-2.
Not much of a surprise.
No,
Not much of a surprise. No, they didn't play last year, but they played the year before that, and they did pretty well. So it's not that surprising to me. And they practice on ESA all the time too, so it's not that surprising to me.
Yeah,
All right.
I agree with that.
Okay. East 2, Boston finishing atop at 6-0, UMass behind them, and then a little bit of a drop-off for the rest of the group with New Hampshire, Maryland, Connecticut, Delaware, and NHTI Concord Community College. Boston performing really well as well. I don't remember them really being much of a threat up until this year either. Is there a reason behind that?
They play on an ESCA team together. I don't think they're playing this season, but last season they played on an open team together. I think they went 10-6 or 11-5 or something, and then went to playoffs, lost first round or something. So as a team, they're putting in the time together.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably contributes for much of the success, playing in the collegiate level, because a lot of teams in collegiate don't practice, or they're just individually not that good.
Yeah, they put in
especially
the
on
time.
the East Coast. No offense to the East Coast people, but it's just not nearly as developed over there. There's much fewer good teams on that side.
Yeah,
of it.
definitely the infrastructure needs help.
You hear that, East Coast? That's the West Coast talking right there. Yeah.
I'm not even that far East Coast. Like, would you consider Detroit East Coast? Like, kind of.
I would consider that more like north than anything else.
Yeah.
You like Lake Coast.
Just think of me as up, not east.
I just think of you as like really cold winters. Like that's what I think of. I'm like,
What's it outside right now? It was like 35 Fahrenheit here the other day or something.
Well, because I know like up this weekend, the Super Bowl, like Minnesota is actually like dumping like massive snow in there. It's like they have an actual dome there. God.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, back to the Boston thing. I did want to mention that like Boston, like kind of this group was one of those ones that's like up for the taking. Anybody could have just like went out in front and took it, and Boston like really showed up like big time.
For sure, yeah.
We'll see obviously how they're doing and performing here in the spring once we flip on over there. But the last East group was East 1 with a VCU. They had a pretty good year last year. They're definitely improving on it this year. Didn't have the toughest group though, I would say, with Virginia Tech, Rutgers, Clemson, West Virginia, North Carolina State, Abbott, and Stevens Institute of Tech. Not a tough group, but I think for the most part VCU played up to par. for what they could do, right? I mean, they have they have an okay roster.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got into intermediate last season from Open. I think they're like one of the teams that squeaked by despite losing in the first round somehow, though. So I don't really get it how they made IM, but they did.
Yeah,
I heard a whole bunch of, I don't know. I was on a team and then I went for surgery and then I didn't play anymore, and then I woke up from surgery and I was in IM somehow, but I didn't play. So I don't know what happened, but we definitely got first rounded. So
I mean, it's the same. It was the same thing for Virginia Tech too. They also played Open last season, and they got moved up to IM. I think they had like 2 wins or something. They had more than 1 win in playoffs for sure.
Yeah, I think they went like 13-3 and then 2-1.
Yeah, that's pretty good considering. For most of them, it's like their first season of ESCA really. So it's promising.
All right.
Yeah, I think Virginia Tech had the benefit of they had someone that was just carrying them super hard. I don't remember who it was though. I think it was He had insane plus minus at the end of last semester in CSL. It was like plus 80 kills or something.
Yeah, he was definitely like one of the people that were putting up huge numbers. Like I remember seeing so many matches where he went like 30 and like 12 or something like that so many times. So, it's not that surprising when you have a player that has that kind of level of consistency. But at the same time, like we have to see if we can really do that against like the better competition in the league, right? This is just one group.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, his stats are nuts for the fall. He's got like several games over 120 ADR.
Look, VCU, you're doing good. If you don't understand,
yeah.
For those people that are listening, Midwest. Let's move down to the Midwest 3. Ohio State 6-0, K State 5-1, Wichita State 3-3, Iowa State 3-3, Tiffin, Northern Iowa, and Case Western to trail off the end. Wichita State, I feel like, dropped off a little bit after last year's performance. K-State obviously moved up much better, and then Ohio State leading the charge with a little bit more of a, I don't want to say a veteran roster, but definitely with like G4C Shooter, Noah, and some of the players that they have, it's a little bit more. Tezra, yeah, they have a little bit of a hardier lineup to work with this year, and so that 6-0 is pretty normal for what their group is. I think we all predicted that as well.
Yep.
I'm a little surprised that Wichita State did 3-3 though.
Yeah, they have some really experienced players. Like El Jacko's been like a LAN player for a long time. Pretty sure he's played in IM for a bit. Like not anymore, but he used to. So I don't know. I figured they would do better.
Same. Midwest 2, we had Robert Morris finishing up at 6-0, Illinois at 5-1, Kentucky 4-2, Southern Illinois, Northern Kentucky, Trine, and Dakota State trailing the rest of the group. Yeah, I think about as much as we predicted. At least we knew for sure that RMU would be getting out of this group in first place. Walshy, obviously a big lead. They got a good, nice little roster going for them as well. Do we think that they could get far in the spring with what they have?
I think they can get far in the entire league.
I put them at number 1 on the rankings just because I think if there's anybody who can give 5N a run this year, it's them. Like their practice is showing it. Spermie's like developing into this IGL. Like I mean, Mahone mentioned, like you said, like he's going to MDL this season. Like they're kind of all peaking at the right time, and I think that if anyone can do it.
Yeah, same with Lennox too. Lennox is playing on Check 6 and MDL this season as well. So they have two guys that play in MDL, and their other 3 all play in main. So it's like. The only downside for them is that they don't play as a team. Like they don't practice as a team.
I was trying to scrim them once. They scrim 3.5 hours a day for like 5 days a week before
together
they
now.
Yeah, wow. They told me they scrim from about 3 to 6:30, and then they go scrim with their main teams or promote.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's a lot of time.
Yeah.
But that's also like a lot of time that they're probably getting better and better every day.
Yeah.
So
they're a contender.
Is that a recent change though for them, like over spring break, that they decided to do that, or
well, they used to play together last season, didn't they?
Not that much. Like they'd only scrim like a couple times a week, but like
I mean, like last year, weren't they on like a team together in ESEA? Weren't they?
No.
No. Okay, I'm thinking of a different school then.
Interesting. Well, RMU looking like contenders from everybody here. We move down to the Midwest. Texas A&M, UT Austin 6-1, 5-2. You got UT Dallas, North Texas, Texas Arlington, Houston, Tennessee, and Texas Tech trailing a bunch over there. What is making Texas A&M good this year? I mean, they got obviously Haroxer and Smoothie and Ghost, who's actually just been Ghost, who we've seen with multiple like 30 frag games, is really performing well. Is this a team that could actually do well in the playoffs? Like, could it be a top 16 team potentially by the end of the year?
mean,
Yeah.
I think they have a good
top
shot.
16,
Yeah.
but I don't
Top 16, yeah. Top 10, probably not. I don't know.
It'll
They
be-
have to
it'll be-
play really, really, really well.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
is the group that they were in the fall, that Midwest group, is that not enough to give us like a good indicator?
I mean, I think that that's like one of the hardest groups in the whole league, to be honest. Like, where as far as competition goes, and at the level of competition that it's at, like you see, they have a 16-10 win, 16-14, 16-14, like 16-10. They're not
It's
like complete
definitely a
blowouts.
close group, but there aren't really any top tier teams in the
Yeah,
group.
that's
Not like
true.
the California group that had like Irvine and San Jose State in it.
It's one of those things. They're gonna have to they're like UCF. They're gonna have to prove the test of time when they actually start playing these top teams.
Gotcha.
agreed.
Can UT Austin move up as well potentially? They lost obviously to a team like Kentucky. They have Kevin Wow as their leader. They have Balto. They have Deba. A few guys that have actually played in the CSL for a couple of years now. If they kind of practice, and for some reason they seem like a little more disorganized than they should be, but could they also get it together? Come playoff time. Nobody's
Depends
certain.
on if
I
they
don't
put.
think
It
so.
depends on if they put the time in or not.
Yeah,
If they put
yeah.
the time in, they could, but I don't know if they will.
Yeah, they
Do
did.
you
The
guys
games
ever
that we
see-
casted of them were like way closer than I thought they were gonna be.
Well, they lost to UT Dallas in the very even
Yeah,
first one that we
that's-
broadcasted. Yeah,
That was the one I'm saying. And then the first week, I thought that they were just gonna blow out. Like I think it's UH Premier, that's Houston, right? Yeah, I thought they were just gonna blow them out, and then it's their 16-13. Their wins are all so close, and the way that they play just seems like not very clean. Like good teams are gonna exploit them. I think. I don't know if they're top 20 material.
So, did you guys ever get a chance to scrim them or play them at any point for any reason?
I don't. UT Austin. I know we played them last season in CSL, but we were in the middle of going through like 2 roster changes, so it was kind of
Not the best
Odd
of times.
game.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they're not terrible. Like they have decent aim. Their team play isn't very strong. I don't think. They did beat Illinois recently, though. I think, which is a decent win, but.
I feel it. Let's move down to the south. We have Georgia, Central Florida, Georgia Tech, Georgia State, Louisiana State, aka LSU, Georgia Southern, and Alabama. A bit of a kind of a mix of SEC, ACC teams right here that you would traditionally see in conferences. Georgia performed really strong. Central Florida performed pretty strong. Georgia Tech even was pretty decent, and even Georgia State trailing. And this actually ended up being a pretty good group in the south, right? For people that generally would look at esports, the Southeast doesn't get a lot of recognition or a lot of respect or notoriety. What out of those teams kind of stands out for you from the south side of things?
I was kind of surprised that Georgia State didn't top the group. Honestly,
I was thinking the same thing. They have 3 guys that play on a main team together, and like they're struggling in this group, or they struggled in that group. So it's
I
hard
think
to
they're
say.
just not putting in the time outside of their main teams to like actually play as the Georgia State 5.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
it's really hurting them a lot.
Yep. Yep.
And I mean, I'm looking at it right now, and some of these matchups were like really tight for them as well. Again, while Georgia State may be a little bit underperforming, their 2 wins that they had over Georgia Tech and UCF actually came in overtime and double overtime, a 19-17 over UCF and a 22-19 over Georgia Tech. So kind of showing a little bit of grit and composure too as well. What is making this Georgia team as good as they are with Eclipse, Seabs, Putang, like all that team? Is there any Mahone? Is there anything that you see from them in ESEA or anywhere else that would say that this could be one of the top teams come playoff time?
I mean, they had a really good result in the fall, but like in the spring right now, their results are just a little bit lackluster in my opinion. Like they played against Iowa State, they barely won 16-13, and they played against UT Austin, lost 7-16. So it's almost like their performance in the fall is not reflective of what's going on right now. Like I don't know what the issue is.
I feel like one thing with the fall is that a lot of teams that I know, they don't take it necessarily as seriously because it's mainly just for seeding and going into the second semester.
Yep.
Sure.
So some teams might just not practice as much for it, and I feel like Georgia was one of the teams that was probably practicing a lot for the fall and did really well because of it, but now they are playing against a lot of other teams that are practicing as much as they are, and it's just a lot harder for them.
I
That could be
agree.
true. Yeah.
I agree. One of those teams that we're seeing, I think, like starting to obviously RMU kicking into gear. I think SUNY Baruch is as well, kind of kicking it into gear as well. So you're seeing teams sort of pick it up a little bit more, especially the top end teams, because they know they have to perform. And really, I mean, you look at the standings, and once we get to the spring, you're only going to get a small opportunity to make it. You better be one of the top 3 teams to try to ensure yourself a spot. If you're dabbling around that 3rd, 4th spot area, you don't want to find yourself there, because there's a chance that you just might miss out on playoffs completely, because we do have a lot more conferences this year that we're going to be picking from. We get to move now up to the fun area, I feel like always, of CSGO, the north side of things. We have Ryerson at 6-0, Montreal at 5-1, the Falcons, Toronto 4-2, Carleton 3-3, McMaster 2-4. Ottawa, did Ottawa drop out, or did they just not perform well?
Combination.
Yeah.
One led to
I
another.
think they're good players.
Yeah,
Dropped
they
out.
had a good team last year too. That's a
Mario.
damn shame. It's a damn shame. Obviously, Ryerson performing really well. I don't think much of a surprise there. They practice, they play. It seems like they also have a really kind of fun roster and fun team atmosphere right now. Currently, when I talk to them almost on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I can tell you that.
Montreal, I feel like they're kind of trying to figure out what they're trying to do with their roster this year. Obviously, it's like a 6-man roster, kind of switching in here and there. God, who am I thinking of that keeps swapping in there? Epsilon.
Isn't it?
Yeah, Epsilon's kind of the coordinator coach, but he's also playing as well for them. So I think they're still trying to 100% figure out their roster or who their starting 5 is for the playing side of things. But they're still a very talented team, one of the teams that we've seen be a finalist. And so, is there much of a surprise with how they're performing, or is it just, them not having enough time to play or dedicating themselves enough to, their play to be as good as they could be?
I don't know. Montreal is one of those teams that they can beat you on the chemistry that they have if you're not paying attention. Like, it kind of happened to Toronto. A team, we thought it was going to be a close game between Toronto and Montreal on train. Toronto clutches out a 1v2 knife round and then chooses T side and loses 16-1. So it wasn't close. I mean, Montreal just stomped them, and honestly, Ryerson is probably a little better on paper than them, but I think Montreal and Ryerson would probably go 2-1 in a best of 3. They're close. Montreal, if they put the time in, and I think that's our theme here, is if they put the time in, which I think they do, honestly. Outside of the game, they do play together, whether it's in a serious manner, at least they do play together. So
can Toronto improve as well, potentially? I mean, I feel like I want to say Carleton. Carleton, if they put the time in as well, they could probably be jumping in there as well. They seem like an all right team generally. I mean, they've been taking off really big games, at least on the on the spring side of things, which we can talk about when we get over there. But yeah, Carleton could be maybe in the mix as well, I want to say. The other North Division, we have British Columbia. Hey, 6-0. You guys did okay. Ontario Tech, St. Clair, Wilfrid Laurier, Simon Fraser, Lambton, and Sheridan. So what takeaways can we get from this group outside of obviously UBC doing UBC things? Ontario Tech, are they as good as they look? Mohammed, what do you think?
Well, if I recall, when UBC played them, it was 16-5. So, and
we beat them 16-6 last week as well.
They're all
not
good individual players, but they don't play well together sometimes.
Okay. I think that's a pretty concise.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to not call you guys posers. You guys aren't real CSGO. You're not a real CSGO team.
No, they're good. I know a lot of the players on that team because there's a rivalry, obviously, between True Lies children here on the St. Clair Saints, and UOIT. So I kind of follow that rivalry a little bit. And honestly, St. Clair and UOIT could trade games back and forth all day for the second spot in this division.
I feel like I saw True somewhere around, so if he wants to comment on St. Clair's situation and how they're doing, let us know. But it seems like they got a pretty tight-knit group, and they're putting in a lot of time and dedication.
I scrimmed with them last night. I can tell you they have fun. So
yeah. Awesome. All right, let's continue looking down the groups. We have a few more to go on the fall side of things. We had the mix, which had obviously CU Boulder, Maryville, Washington, Wisconsin, Nevada, Minnesota, Utah, and Michigan State. was Maryville just by far the only team that you guys got a rise out of, pretty much, and everybody else was more of a stomp?
I remember we had a bit of a close game against Minnesota, but we didn't really prepare for it a whole lot. But for the most part, Maryville, we thought it was going to be our toughest game, but so we prepared for it a lot, and it didn't end up being very close, I remember. I also thought Washington was going to be a bit better than they were, because I remember last season in AVGL, we played a best of 3 against them. I think it was like 6 or 7 overtimes total. But I think they've made a bunch of roster changes since then, so they didn't do quite as well as I expected.
At the same time, though, that season of AVGL, you could pick up whoever was within your region, right?
Yeah,
so it wasn't
really
necessarily
Might not have
from
been, like,
your
Washington
school.
players.
Yeah.
God, if only we had those rules so we could set up super teams. God, that'd be hilarious. Actually, that's a great question. Before we go out, so who would you pick for your super team?
I would not change my current roster at all.
Great answer. Great answer.
You guys have good
great
chemistry,
answer.
man.
That's a great answer. You would not change your roster.
I just take RMU squad and just kick everyone on mine. They probably have. I think they have the best team right now because they all want to put in the time, and I think their Counter-Strike team scholarship or like half their tuition or something.
It's
I think they're
pretty
the only
one.
Counter-Strike team with scholarships right
Is
now.
Is that a factor for you guys in terms of like training? Because obviously you guys are just a typical just a typical team representing your university. You're not exactly scholarships. So does that with classes, does that cut into your guys' ability to play and practice as you would like?
Oh, for sure. Like I know, or one of our teammates, HGHK, he's an aerospace engineering major, which is like toughest major at the school. So he has pretty much zero free time. So we struggle to practice as much as we would like to necessarily because of that, and just because all the rest of us also have classes, obviously.
Well,
I feel.
Would you like just at least just to get like 2 to 3 hours a night or something like that if you could?
Yeah, right now we practice about 10 hours a week. We're trying to add on to that a bit more with like offline practice in general, but I would prefer to have like 15 to 20 hours a week, but that's not very realistic with a class load.
Mm-hmm. I feel you. No, I feel you. I mean, that's really 7-8% of the teams that aren't under scholarship have the same exact struggles, and I mean, not mentioning even just trying to find a match time that they could all coordinate and play at as well. So it's really tough for a lot of the schools. CU obviously performed really well. No surprise there with Maryville trailing, and then kind of the rest was a bit of a mix, if I remember that we predicted. On the west side of things, we moved to the west. San Jose State woke back up after their late slumber last year. 6-0 for their fall side of things, trailed by Arizona. They performed really well. Bad news bears the Arizona State after actually a decent fall side. They kind of had a little bit of a falling out, and if I remember correctly, they have officially dropped out of the spring side of things. So that always makes me sad because I really always like the Arizona State rivalry that we have here in CSGO, and San Diego State, Grand Canyon, Cal State Long Beach, which I think as well might have dropped out, and then Cal Poly Pomona trailing them as well. So ended up turning into a really easy group for San Jose just by circumstance more than anything else. But the Arizona State fall positioning, was there any surprise there with Arizona actually topping Arizona State?
No, not really. I think Arizona
Retro and Corbin, are they like, does that team just like that much better than them?
Like they practice together compared to ASU, which don't practice at all together. So that's pretty much what it came down to. The thing is that like the SJSU versus University of Arizona game, I actually expect that to be closer. But when I actually watched like the stream of it, like it was ridiculous because the server that they were playing on, all the San Jose players had like 10 ping, and then all the Arizona guys had like 120 or something like that. And it was just like, a bit of an asterisk to that victory, I would say, because I think it'd be closer.
At that point, teams got to request on a different server then, if like that's that big of an issue.
I think
so.
The CEVO rules, you can force a different server if the ping differential is like more than like 50 or 30 or something like that. I don't know why they wouldn't do that.
The thing is
they
that
wanted to play the sympathy card from Mahone. They fed that right into him.
nah.
Yeah, I can only imagine what it's like to train in British Columbia.
Mahone's like, yeah, if they had a 200 ping difference, I bet Arizona would win too. But SGSU is pretty good though. I would say though.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they have their
Yeah,
majority of their roster kind of back to what it was not last year but 2 years ago. Arm, and they have C-Dub and Jeremy, and again they have a good lead as well with Cruz leading them as well as kind of their coordinator. And so overall I feel like the San Jose structure is good enough where they can do some damage here in the spring again this year, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they can make it that far, to be honest. Like, they don't put that much time together as a team. I mean, if they do, then maybe, but I just don't see that same type of spark or fire that they used to have.
Is it too much just
Yeah.
individuality and playing with other teams rather than their own, or just not putting in time into the game itself?
I think like 3 or 4 of them were on an intermediate team
Yeah.
together last season ESEA, but it wasn't all 5 for some reason. I don't think they really practiced with their full roster at all.
I just
one
feel
player
like,
can make a big difference too. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I just don't think they really care that much, to be honest. Like, they already did it all in that 1 year, right? So the motivation just isn't there. Like, it's not the same.
Yeah, this $10,000 not enough of motivation for me. I don't know.
yeah, I mean they're one of those schools. Like I said, they could be okay, but I don't even think they're not top 20 material. Probably even.
Really? Oh.
I don't know. Like the way that they're playing right now, I don't
Yeah.
see them beating other teams that are dedicated.
Interesting. I would love to
It might
see
just
that.
be-
I would love to see
There's
that
always
play
the
out.
chance.
Yeah, go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry.
Good. No.
I was going to say there's always the chance that they're just kind of coasting by through the regular season because they're just really overconfident. There's like, yeah, there's no way we're not making playoffs. And then like once the regular season ends, they might start putting the time in then.
They have kind of done
But-
that over the past couple of years. Like last year, a little bit worse than it was the year before, but the year before that, like when they ended up going to the finals, they for the most part in the fall and the spring side didn't practice like that much. They didn't dedicate themselves until it got to around playoff time. And so I feel like it's one of those teams I don't want to bet against because they know how once they can turn that switch on, they can be one of the most talented teams here in the CSL. So I would not bet too hard against them. The final group though, just to kind of try to close this side out, we had UCI on the west side with UC San Diego, UC Santa Cruz, UCLA, UC Riverside, UC Berkeley, and Concordia. Berkeley taking a big slump this year at 1-5. Meanwhile, maybe a slight surprise with UC Irvine finishing at 5-1. Because I remember when we talked to Strawberry last time around, they were still trying to figure out their roster, who was going to be playing, roles, like all these issues. It's not the same roster that they were playing with, and so they performed, or maybe even outperformed what they probably were expecting, right? With what they were going up against, maybe.
I feel like even with those issues, it was kind of like 50-50 at worst, like worst case scenario for UCI as to whether or not they could like beat UCSC.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not very surprised that they lost to Triton, considering, but I think beating UCSC was pretty strong for them, considering the circumstances.
UCSC?
I think so.
UCSC's
Or-
roster is completely different.
UCSC
I think,
UCSC's is.
I think you mean UCLA, right?
Yeah,
Probably?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, UCLA is up in the standings there. I mean, the game that we casted that they played, like I think it was a 16-0 on Cash, and they look like as good as they've ever looked. So whatever problems they were having then, they're kind of gone now. I'd say.
Interesting. All right. That closes out the fall portion. So a lot of teams that we expected to finish on top ended up being there. Not to say that it's easily predictable, but generally there's a gist of like who the top teams are in each group as we go. But that's why we also have the spring side of things to make it a little bit more fun when we end up shuffling the divisions based off their finishing spots on their fall side of things. And so let's hop over to the spring side of things. We have, looking at the conferences right now, we have conference number 12 at the very top of my page is UCI, Georgia Southern, Washington, Wilfrid Laurier, Arizona, Tennessee, and McMaster. And already from what I'm seeing, McMaster 0-2, Arizona 1-2, UCI still staying strong at 3-0, and Georgia Southern at 3-0 as well. I almost want to look at their schedule and figure out who they played, and they have not played yet UCI just yet, or McMaster or Washington, but they have beat Arizona though. So any takeaways or surprise from this group right here that we see?
Surprised by Georgia Southern. I haven't really looked into their team a whole lot, but I just would not have expected them to really be a serious contender. So they've been definitely doing better than I would have expected.
Compared to the fall as well.
Yeah, I agree. This is a team that I haven't even looked into either, so I guess we're going to have to see how well they do when they actually play against UCI, because they're able to beat. It looks like they're able to beat some of these mid-tier collegiate teams pretty easily, like Arizona and Wilfred. Those like mid-tier collegiate teams. So 16-5ing them is, that sounds pretty good promising. Result. Yeah,
especially I think they went like 1-5 in the fall or something.
Yeah, that's what I was referencing. Is that they didn't do so hot. So
16-0 over Arizona. Is that real?
By UCI, yeah.
Oh, by UCI. Sorry, I thought that was Georgia Southern like beating.
I think that was the cash one that I was talking about. Yeah.
I was just like, oh my god, like what did I just miss in this whole entire group? For those that are also not aware, the fall results in regards to your playoff standings, they don't matter. So whatever results you finished in the fall, that only matter for seeding. Only your spring results matter for playoff seeding here. So Georgia Southern already at 3-0, putting themselves in a great position to make the playoffs this year. So
yeah. Looks like they made a couple roster changes between the two halves of the season, adding like Schnee. I think Rune wasn't there as well. Goose, like Shuker was like the Rock, and Winter was on the team as well. And now they've added like some assets clearly.
Indeed, which is kind of interesting because Arizona now in a little bit of a dangerous spot, sitting at 1-2. They almost have to win out at this point to make a playoff run for themselves. And for a team of their quality, they should probably make it, but they really need to kind of win out the rest of the way. I mean, they don't have to play against UCI. All they have to do is beat Wilfrid Laurier, Tennessee, and McMaster, which seems doable, right? I think they should be capable of beating all three.
They should definitely be able to get into the top 4 of their group, I think.
Yep.
Interesting. All right, let's move down to Conference 11. Carleton, 3-0. St. Clair, 2-0. LSU at 1-1, Houston 0-1, SJSU 0-1, Maryville 0-2, and Dakota State at 0-1. Also a reminder that some of our CSL teams are really lazy about reporting some of their early matches of the season, so not exactly every single record on here is completely perfect, but looking at it right now, Carleton at 3-0 has beaten San Jose State, has beaten Houston and Maryville. All they have really left is in their final week to beat St. Clair. And all of a sudden, they're one of the top CSL teams somehow?
Well, I think their game against Houston was a forfeit win. But still, that's their
they have two forfeit
State
wins.
And Maryville are pretty strong.
Yeah, so I think this is like one of those dark horse teams that have just come out of nowhere. As the thing is like I didn't actually notice them until towards the end, where they're actually putting up good results. And if you look these guys up on ESA, they're playing at IM right now, 2-1 currently. And they also have 2 teams too. Like they have a D1 and a D2 team that both play in ESCA. That's like super uncommon in collegiate. Usually it's just one team that plays ESCA.
Their forfeits too as well are over Houston and Dakota State. Their actual wins are over San Jose and Maryville, 16-7. That's pretty sound. Obviously, first week map Nuke. You could put an asterisk to any victory. I feel like on that map, but Train 16-7 over Maryville. That's pretty good. Like that's a great start for them.
Yeah, for sure.
We will. What's that Star Wars quote? We will keep an eye on your progress, young Padawan, or something like that, right? Just like
yeah.
I don't know. So Star Wars fans are gonna be like gonna axe me after this, but yeah, I mean it's interesting to see them just kind of pop up out of nowhere after.
It's a feel good underdog story. They have nothing to lose, and they're just kind of like playing it out. Like I know Snake Lord personally, he's like a solid IGL. So if he's actually calling the shots for this team, I wouldn't be surprised to see like some really like solid strategy coming out. He's really good at mid round calling and like telling people like, oh, maybe you should think about doing this. It makes the whole team better.
Let's see, Saints Gaming as well, doing pretty damn well on True side. They also had a forfeit win over LSU, but they too also beat Maryville, 16-13 on Nuke.
Yep.
They have yet to play San Jose. They have yet to play Houston and Carleton, so it's a little bit of going to be a longer tail end of the season for them, and will be maybe even a good either test or a playoff prepper. Because what teams don't realize, I feel like as well, is like it's not always a bad thing to have a tougher tail end of the schedule to get tested on, because it will get you a little bit more playoff ready. Because for some, they're not going to use that reschedule week to play, and there's going to be that week in between for the playoff break to get generated. So there could be a week, 2 weeks time off before the actual playoffs begin for some of these teams. And if they play a lot of weak teams leading up to the playoffs, they could be kind of coming in lackluster into the round of 32 or round of 16, depending on kind of where they fall into. So it'll be interesting to say. But I think St. Clair, overall cohesion and team mentality, I think True is leading them pretty well, right?
He runs the tight ship. I can tell you that much. He was like, I was there at their LAN center last night, like watching them practice. He was drilling into them. Like I know they were all wearing their headsets, but you could definitely hear him because I could hear him. And
if only we could get that passion, that passion.
No,
if only we could get that passion for his casting. He comes burnt out after yelling at his team all day.
Honestly, yeah, they're a good group of guys. Like one of my really good friends and like one of my former teammates started going to college, and he's playing on their team now. So he's adding like an experience factor to their team that they didn't really have before. So I think that they could definitely be if Carleton beats them, I'm not going to be surprised, but if St. Clair beats Carleton, I'm going to be pleasantly surprised, and I'm going to kind of understand it.
Gotcha. All right. The rest of the group could be a little bit of a toss-up. I would assume that we'll have Carleton, St. Clair, and at the end of the day, San Jose State and maybe Maryville, depending on how they finish up, could be one of those sneaking in 4 seeds that could luckily get in there. I feel like the talent-wise of this group is actually pretty damn good. And also as well, they have Houston in the group, so really can't knock this group for having any win, any result here is pretty good in this type of a group.
I think Houston's team might have dropped out of dropped out of CSL though, because they forfeited the only 2 games that they've played have been forfeit losses. Played. I use that term usually in this.
That is possible, but always tough to tell in the first couple weeks because some teams don't get back to school and they just kind of end up forfeiting because they can't get a team out in time. So we'll move down to Conference 10. Hey, look at that. CU 3-0 leading the way. They got Toronto trailing them at 2-1, with Case Western actually trailing them at 2-1 as well. You have Treen, Georgia State, Ontario Tech, UT Arlington, and Stevens Institute of Technology. I think Stevens Institute of Technology has dropped out, if I'm not mistaken. What are Case Western's wins coming from?
They have 2 forfeit wins right now.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, where are their wins coming from right now? Obviously, you guys have 3 wins, technically 2 as well. Georgia State, Ontario Tech, good way to clear room. And probably the only challenging opponent really left in that schedule is Toronto in your 6th match of the spring side of things, right?
Yeah, Inferno,
so that should be fun. Hopefully, if nobody drops out of the broadcast schedule, we'll actually be able to stream that match. It should be really fun to watch. Obviously, Solgo, you don't have to answer this one, but do you guys think that obviously CU is going to be finishing atop with probably Toronto trailing them, and by the end of the side of things, Georgia State 3rd, with maybe Ontario Tech bobbling around there in that 3-4 spot?
I think as long as Georgia State doesn't stumble, they should actually finish 2nd. They actually got a win over Toronto in the first week, so as long as they can beat UOIT or Ontario Tech, they should be able to finish 2nd over Toronto.
Yeah,
assuming that we beat Toronto.
You guys, like, honestly, everybody in this group, like, Toronto's kind of got, like, they had a really bad start to the season, obviously. They weren't putting in the time. They weren't really, like, practicing or taking it seriously. But from the insider information that I have regarding esports scene in Ontario, they kind of got a kick in the pants for their performance. Like, University of Toronto's a huge school. Like, that's the prestigious school to go to around here. So they want their teams performing as well as possible. And now they've added VSA from Rise, so that makes them, like, I guess that kind of takes off one of their weak links. And then Denya, Felix, and Intox, they play main together on a team. So there's as long as they can actually practice as a group, put the time in, and not think that every game is going to be a walk in the park, because I think that's kind of the mentality that they started with a little bit, or at least it kind of seemed like that. I don't know. I didn't know the inner talks of the team and how it was going in the first half. But I don't know, they're like you use the term dark horse team. Like these guys are not necessarily a dark horse because I think like on paper they're a solid team.
Yeah, they definitely have the individual skill, but at the start of this semester they definitely haven't been putting in the individual time in. Because I mean, with the roster they only beat Ontario Tech 16-14, and they lost to Georgia State.
That's what I'm saying.
With the current players
they should be winning.
They should be performing a lot better than they are. So, kind of hope they just wait to start practicing for a couple weeks. But
yeah.
Hopefully we'll have a big showdown here in a couple weeks with you guys. But yeah, it looks like at least there's enough talent in that group to supplement maybe even 4 teams as well getting into the playoffs, depending on how things end up finishing up. Looking at the conference right below you guys, number 9, we have BC, aka British Columbia, aka Mahone University, North Kentucky, North Texas, Montreal, Vert, Georgia Tech, and Northern Iowa. A clear, I want to say, at least in my opinion, three-man horse, where you have BC, Montreal, and Georgia Tech probably at the end of the day, with most likely North Texas and Kentucky, or Northern Kentucky trailing, but at least with the talent in place, this could actually be maybe a bit of an easier group for you guys overall in the spring side of things compared to your fall, right?
I don't know. I think they're comparable.
Don't make you guys. Like we got a hard schedule in the fall, and we got to hit a hard schedule
really.
in the spring.
No, I don't.
The CSL
really
just looks down upon us. They just give us the toughest schedules all across.
No, I don't think that at all. I think the only real team that was going to give UBC trouble here was Montreal, and they destroyed them. It was like 16-8 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I don't see any other team that can really contest them if that was, that was supposed to arguably be the second team in this group.
I concur.
Yeah.
We need to make sure we need to get everybody to sign up with their university team and their like university team only, so I could look up some of these damn teams so much easier that I have to type them out every time. Yeah, interesting. Georgia Tech has already lost to Montreal at 10-16 on Nuke, but again, I always like to put an asterisk on that map, especially in a best of 1. Looking at it, I mean, they'll have to play you guys.
It's not really CT sided anymore, honestly. I think it's like one of the more balanced maps. Like if you get to know how to play it, like
at this level though, at this level though, do you think that's
almost more T sided at this level, honestly, because a lot of the things that end up happening with Nuke is you literally just throw 2 or 3 smokes and you get outside control. That's Nuke right now, pretty much. It's so it's. You just get a lot of map control for free, pretty much.
Well, we'll have to check back in with you guys then, because UBC plays them in week 5, and so that will be a little bit more of a telling note, I guess I want to say. But I don't see Georgia Tech as a top 2. There probably could maybe be the 3-4th team in that group as well, though. But most likely, everybody agree on the side that probably BC, Montreal top 2 finishing up. If BC beats, everybody. I mean, you guys took out Montreal, so I think
that was their test. I don't think anybody's going to contest against them now.
So easy group in the spring, right, Mahone?
Yes.
There you go. There we go. All right, Conference 8. This one's kind of interesting. You have Central Florida, Ryerson, Southern Illinois, North Carolina State, UT Dallas, Tiffin, NHTI, Concord, and Carnegie Mellon. I'm not sure what's going on with Carnegie Mellon. Are they actually playing their games this year? No. Okay.
Pretty sure they're not.
And NHTI, Concord, either they're not playing or they're just generally not good compared to their last.
They're not playing, I don't think.
Tiffin, not good, if not playing. UT Dallas, not performing well this year. North Carolina State, as we just saw them, not as clean of as a team as they would like to probably be. They're kind of, again, was that middle of the pack Southern Conference last year. And then Southern Illinois, similarly as well, is sitting at 2-2. So a lot of these teams that get those wins are going to see those via the forfeit win rates. So pretty much all you really have is just Central Florida and Ryerson here, and which means we're just waiting for next week's game, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's going to be like a barn burner of a game, especially because that's like if Central Florida wins, then like I'm going to have to eat a shoe or something. I don't know. I'm not gonna.
Do you guys actually have like some sort of a bet or something down?
No, it's just they were like, because they were mad that I didn't put them in the top 10 on Twitter they're tweeting at me and stuff, and I think it's just banter because Blue Sky told them to. But yeah, they're like, so it takes a perfect record to make the top 10, and I'm like, I did like that SpongeBob meme where he's like all the letters are all funny. I don't know, I used to see it a lot, but that's kind of how I felt looking there. But honestly, that like if they beat Ryerson next week, maybe they'll have a chance. But I don't even think they're going to beat Ryerson, to be quite honest. I think Ryerson's going to be like that test that they haven't had yet this season.
I think UCF has the individual skill to beat Ryerson, but I don't really think they put the time in. Like, I think they have a bunch of really skilled players on the team, but they don't really play together. Player. So I think that'll end up shooting them they'll end up shooting themselves in the foot pretty much.
Interesting.
I agree with that.
For those that are wondering too as well, let me actually pull up the broadcast schedule here just 1 second to let you guys know exactly when they're playing next week. It is going to be on Tuesday or Monday at 7 o'clock. Really primetime positioning for everybody for two schools that are not over in this region. Central Florida and Ryerson. Yeah, it's 7 o'clock Pacific on Monday. So Monday night, we got a fun little match ahead of us. And
we sure do.
Mahone, what are you doing on Monday night?
Please be busy.
No, this is probably a game that I'd be willing to take. Like, this is gonna be a really, really good one.
And
not to mention, for sure.
Not to mention, like, all those D2 games I was casting, and
we could try something fun.
Games,
we could do a try.
Why not all three of us?
I was about to say that. Yeah, we could do a tri-headed broadcast. We'll just have to get.
That could happen. I'm gonna watch it either way, so I'll be available. I'll let you hit me up about that.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm down. I'm down for that.
Solgo, you want to join in? We'll do a quad-headed broadcast. We'll get a panel going just like beforehand, and the analyst desk will bring in CU Robert Morris in.
I should probably go to my team's practice. I'll be able to.
I like your straightforward answers. Like, I would never trade my roster. I will be at my practice. Just like I will not betray my team. All right,
it's like he's on a professional like football team or hockey team or something. Like, never throwing his team under the bus. Never like.
What's funny is because we have so much stream time and playing games and stuff like that. Esports and gaming people are actually more PR ready and more camera ready than a lot of general sports people, even though Twitter sometimes won't tell that story 100% because, well, you know how that goes sometimes. And so, but yeah, I mean, generally, anytime we've had people do video, documentaries or interviews with any of our teams, they're all, when I talk to them after, they're always surprised. They're just wow, everybody was just answering questions, really composed, camera ready. I'm just yeah, we're kind of just on the, our faces are on all the time and talking to people. So it's just funny. You came out with almost a straight PR answer with that one. All right, let's move down to the other conferences. We have 7 more to go. We have Kentucky in Conference 7, UT Austin, Iowa State, West Virginia, Georgia, Rochester, and Delaware. Georgia taking a bit of an L, as we talked about already in the spring. Kentucky 2-0, UT Austin at 2-1. Where are those Kentucky wins coming from right now?
We have 3 actual wins against West Virginia, UT Austin, and I think Rochester, I want to say.
Where can I find them?
Yeah, Rochester. It's Rochester.
Those are all real wins?
Yeah, they're all real wins.
They're all really close as well. So I'm kind of surprised that they've definitely been doing a bit better than I expected them to this season, considering how they performed last season. I think it just shows that they're putting in the time that they need to.
If they beat Georgia, they're actually probably going to finish in first place out of this group.
Yeah, and that would be a surprise too, because looking at it just face value without them playing any games, I don't think any of us probably would have said that they were going to be the top team.
Third, fourth at best. Probably,
yeah, that's probably where they would have
second,
slotted.
Third type thing. Yeah, I don't know about top, but they have a good shot.
Now they do for sure.
UT Austin, obviously losing that. If Kentucky ends up winning out, they're going to stick around the second spot. They have beaten Georgia, though, so Georgia could actually end up finishing a third regardless, even if they win out here, based off how the schedules are, which is really interesting because originally probably people would have said Georgia finishing first, UT Austin probably maybe second, and Kentucky trailing them, but we kind of... with how we see it right now, it looks like it's swapped around a little bit with Kentucky surprising everybody in their performances. Is this a team that anybody's that familiar with? Is it just a Georgia Southern situation where we're going to have to kind of see how they perform and who they are over the next few weeks?
I would say they're more of like an earlier version of UCF because I know these guys played in AVGL last year.
And
'Cause I remember-
CSO.
Yeah, but
I don't
like
know
they
if it's
weren't.
the same roster, but
Yeah, but like I think they're only kind of on the rise now. So it's like kind of like what UCF was a year ago, I want to say, because UCF played in AVGL last year, and then they had decent results, and then now they're here and they're a bigger force, right? So I think that's where
Yeah.
Kentucky is right now.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at it.
It's all about that Georgia game for them. If
Yeah.
they take that game, then they're a threat. But if they don't, I mean, I don't necessarily
know.
consider them a late season threat.
I don't think they're necessarily. I don't think any of the teams in this group are going to be a really
Yeah, truly,
challenger. I think this
as
is
far
one
as
of the weaker groups, like overall, personally.
Mhm. It's not. Yeah, I would say it's kind of middle of the road. I wouldn't call them like 100% weak because as we move down to Conference 6, this could be easily maybe the weakest group out of the whole entire CSL for the spring side. You have Texas A&M at 3-0, Wichita State 2-0. Then it kind of falls off with Illinois.
Kansas State have a pretty solid team. I don't know where their 2 losses came from.
Where are you looking at Kansas State? Oh, you're in conference. You're in
I'm
conference
in conference
5.
5. Yeah,
Well, I'm just like
scroll down one too far.
I'm like, damn. I'm like 27. I'm like, damn. I'm getting old. I'm like staring at my screen.
well, now I'm excited to know where their losses came from. But I mean,
Yeah, just gotta build suspense. You're welcome.
yeah.
I mean, this is. I mean, I'm looking at Conference 6 though. Like Texas A&M,
Yeah.
Wichita State, and then it just falls apart. Illinois, Maryland,
be fair,
Penn Tech, Concordia,
Illinois have a
Clemson.
decent roster.
Yeah, to be fair, Illinois' 2 losses were against Wichita and A&M, and they're both 16-14 losses.
So pretty close.
Yeah, it was like pretty close.
Yeah. I think Illinois, they're just a team that gets kind of shoots themselves in the foot as well. Because I remember we scrimmed them recently, and they were just being way too aggressive. They're just like solo dry peeking, just like really kind of playing puggy, a really puggy style where they're just being way more aggressive than they needed to be, and it just ended up costing them a lot of rounds. So I feel like they're a good roster, but I feel like they'll have a lot of trouble in these close games.
Essentially, the consistency, like they're not playing in a consistent way, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, 5 more conferences to go. Rutgers, Robert Morris, Penn State, Michigan State, UC Berkeley, New Hampshire, Kansas State, and Cal Poly Pomona. I think CPP is not playing, if I'm not too mistaken.
You're correct.
Anybody else not in this group that's not playing? It looks like everybody else is. Because
I think they're playing. Yeah.
Because if I remember, I think New Hampshire's playing. K-State obviously is playing. UC Berkeley's playing. Michigan State too as well. So yeah, I think the whole entire group, almost like everybody except CPP, is actually playing.
CPP played their first 2 games at least. Have they stopped playing since then?
I have not seen it. Like I don't think they are at the moment. I could be wrong though, but RMU, they have, what have they played so far? At least in the spring side of things, they've only played 1 game. And that's against Berkeley, which they 16-0 the team. They have yet to play against New Hampshire. They have yet to play against Kansas State. They have yet to play against, well, obviously CPP is a dropout. So there's a lot of missing results over here on the RMU side of things before they get to week 5, 6, and 7 here. Be interesting to see what happened or if they haven't played them yet.
They just haven't played them yet. I think they all got rescheduled. I think their second game is like tonight or something.
Yeah, I see February 10th for New Hampshire. I see the 11th for Kansas State. So yeah, it looks like they just rescheduled a lot of them, except even the Cal Poly game got rescheduled too as well to the 18th of February. They're actually playing. Never mind. I got the whole group is playing.
8. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yay
The
for Group
results so far,
5.
this looks like one of the more competitive groups because like.
And CPP is actually not doing too bad.
Yeah.
Sent a game into overtime and a 14-6 loss as well. Huh.
They got some new players then, huh? They must have, because
Not
in the
sure.
fall.
It's kind of hard to make out like who are the good teams are in this group just based off their scheduling because like Michigan State, like they beat Penn State or they lost to Penn State but they beat Kansas State, and it's like so it's just like everyone's like losing to each other, or no, they didn't beat Kansas State, they beat someone else, so it's kind of like a triangles all over the place right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty like there's one clear favorite in this division,
Yeah.
but those Kansas State losses really do surprise me as well. Because now they have to, like, their next game is RMU.
Yeah.
So that's like
they lose that
Ooh.
one.
they can hold
probably
that
out.
L like right now if they want to.
And yeah,
But,
if they lose that
yeah.
game, they're actually probably out of playoffs.
Yeah, so especially with, like,
they
this
can make it
division is
one,
like
three.
contentious.
But I don't know. It'll be really tough. They have to like rely on other teams losing, pretty much.
Yeah.
Could
be a possibility.
That'd be a fun little 2 weeks coming up for RMU. They're going to pack all their matches into these next 2 weeks. Be fun to watch them. See if maybe we could even get them a little bit more on stream as well. Yeah, so everybody pretty much in agreement that RMU is just going to wipe everybody at the end of the day with this group and just walk out in first place.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Trailers at this point, obviously, maybe Rutgers could peek out. Penn State, I don't know. Could UC Berkeley even maybe improve on their performances too as well and sneak in after kind of
I
a
think
poor...
they got a couple wins or something, but I'm not really sure what to make of them.
It's kind of like up for the taking, I guess, that second spot behind RMU. Like, it's going to be a brawl. Like you said, all those triangles are like happening between these teams, but it's definitely going to be towards the late season. Like, every game's going to matter for every team this like half.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, that's kind of an interesting group. I actually didn't have my eye on that up until now. Really, really competitive. For those that are looking at groups themselves, Conference 5 in the spring, keep an eye out on them. 4 more to go. Virginia Tech, New York, Binghamton, Utah, UC Riverside, Connecticut, Ohio State, and Cal State Long Beach, which I think Cal State Long Beach is actually not playing. That one I'm almost certain of. VT... probably the lead along with Ohio State here, in theory,
Yeah.
but Ohio State already has a loss this year. Is that
The
two?
Virginia Tech.
To Virginia Tech.
To Virginia Tech. Okay, so not huge surprise there. So most likely Virginia Tech will finish on top at the end of the day once all said and done. Should we see Ohio State and maybe a UC Riverside sighting by the time we get there?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance for that.
Because
I think Riverside
Riverside
does have some promise.
Because you do see SUNY Binghamton, but it is, I think, a forfeit win over Cal State and then a win over Utah, which is not speaking a lot right now at the moment. I don't look at Utah as like a great CSGO team right now. They're kind of middle of the road, maybe towards the bottom half at the moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. All right. Conference number 3, you have UMass 2-1, Minnesota 2-1, VCU at 1-1, UCLA 1-1, New York 1-1, Grand Canyon at 1-1, and Sheridan, who I think Sheridan's not playing, if I'm not mistaken. But the other 6 teams, that's another good group right here. UMass, Minnesota,
Royal Rumble.
Yeah, UMass, Minnesota, VCU, UCLA, New York, and Grand Canyon. All teams outside of maybe Grand Canyon that actually did pretty well in all of their groups. Obviously, VCU went 7-0, but these are all teams that are really competitive. I mean, UMass and especially Minnesota are teams that have been in the CSL for a long time. I feel like they have semi-veteran-ish rosters too as well, representing them. So this could be this is another kind of fun group to look at. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it'll definitely be really competitive for that number 1 spot. I think like all of the big games have already happened though.
Yeah.
Like
The
VCU played
yeah.
UCLA and
Minnesota played
Minnesota
UCLA.
played. Yeah, and UMass.
UMass just played Minnesota and they beat them 19-17 in OT, a close match. Wow. So this is going to be a group that's just going to kind of pick each other apart. VCU, though, definitely losing to UCLA makes it a lot more interesting. And UCLA losing to Minnesota, just like that's actually interesting. All these teams have like taken off one loss off of everybody. Yeah. So
the CF Gophers, man, they have like the most insane upset potential of a team that I've seen in CSL sometimes. They'll just pull out of nowhere. They're just like, I mean, kind of like a Gopher. They're just there. You know what I mean? Like just out of nowhere, and then boom, they're gone a week later.
Yeah, I think a big part of that in the fall, at least, was like they always changed players. Like they always had a different 5 playing their matches, so that's why they had such weird consistency.
You can't anti-strat against that or anything. Yeah. You can't really like predict what they're gonna do or who's gonna show up, where they're gonna play. Yeah, I mean, they made it work though. You can't argue with the results.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day,
they weren't great results, but
at the end of the day, should this be a conference that should be considered for 4 teams to come out of based off performances potentially?
No.
No.
I don't think so. And the thing is like this group is a brawl, but like take any of these teams and put them in another group that has a top team, and I don't know. It's tough to.
We'll look at it this way. The way I see it, yeah, VCU, who probably is going to be one of the top three at the end of the day, I
Yeah.
would say. UCLA, probably as well. New York, and then you kind of get into this weird fringe area, but you move VCU anywhere, they're probably going to be one of the top two. You move UCLA anywhere, they're going to be probably top 2 to 3. New York, top 2 to 3 most likely, and then depending on where you're at, you put Minnesota and UMass as well. You're looking at kind of the 3-4 slot as well. So this is a group with, I feel like, overall talent actually better than a lot of groups. Kind of resembles Conference 5 with a couple less members, at least in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I mean, I don't know. 4 seems like a lot for this group of teams.
Well, how are there 12 teams? Isn't there are 48 in the playoffs this year, right? Or is that
It's 32, isn't it?
32.
I
Did you
remember
confirm that?
I thought I saw a post saying it was 48 top 4 from 4 teams.
Yeah,
or
that's-
from all conferences.
that's
That's
what
what
I
I saw
thought
a
too.
tweet about that on the Star
I'll need
League
to double
account.
check. As far as I know, it is 32, but
And then like the first place team got a bye, I think.
I could,
Yeah.
could
That's what I
double-
read at least.
I could double check that. As far as I know, it's 32, but I could be by somehow mistaken based off of how the playoffs are going to be seeded. But yeah, obviously,
Yeah, just-
you want to though finish in the top 3 regardless, right? Like you don't want to find yourself in the hole where, say, there are the round of 48, but there's a bunch of first round seeds that are going all the way in. You don't want to fall into that whole spot where you get sent and playing against an RMU in the second round and say the round of 32. So you want to try to finish in the top 3 anyways.
Yeah, but this is something that needs to be clarified. Just because like, if there's only 32 teams, there's 12 groups. So top 3 of each group is 36.
Yeah.
So this definitely needs to be clarified here.
I am typing to Alan as we speak right now.
Live updates for the studio audience.
So we might find out here at the tail end of the show. So conference number 2, we have UC Santa Cruz, Lambton at 2-0 both, Nevada 1-1, San Diego State 1-2, ETS École des Technologies 1-2, SUNY Baruch with an 0-1, and Boston 0-1. I don't think everybody's updated their damn matches, if I'm not mistaken. Another fairly talented group here overall.
Yeah. I think SUNY has been underperforming really hard in this group so far.
Yes.
I mean, they took the forfeit loss. It wasn't an actual loss.
Mm-hmm.
But then against Boston University, they gave up 11 rounds on cash, which is like, even if they don't play together, they have enough individual skill that game probably shouldn't be as close. Like, not saying that Boston University are necessarily a bad team, but they're not. They don't have toy, 4-shot, and food on their team. You know.
That's true. Yeah.
So
I don't know. It's kind of weird because Baruch's results in the fall were so weird. It was like whenever they played any of the top teams, like it was like 16-3 or 16-4. And then whenever they played any of like the mid to lower tier teams, it's like 16-10, 16-11. It's like kind of weird, right?
It
Like,
could
I haven't-
kind of, yeah. I mean, that can kind of speak to the level that these guys. Well, let's be honest, they probably don't really practice together all that much.
Yeah, but
I
the
mean,
thing
I'm
is,
sure they play sometimes, but
but-
like the quality of Counter-Strike, all of them play outside of this team is definitely different from some of the mid-pack teams that they're going to be playing against. So they might just not expect certain things, and they're not used to playing that style.
Or I
I mean,
mean,
for-
just generally
it
like
could-
running various like pug strats and testing stuff out as well. That could have maybe made them a
Yeah,
little bit more vulnerable, and they thought that they could get away with losing a certain amount of rounds.
That as well, yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it could just be like after it's like 6-0 or whatever, they just don't care, and then that's how they start losing some rounds, right? Whereas against some of the more top teams that they might know about, where they know they're more individually skilled, they actually play more seriously. I don't know. I haven't watched any of their actual games, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, outside of that forfeit loss, if that match was played out, they probably would have beat Santa Cruz, right? Okay.
Yeah.
I think Santa Cruz are a bit better than you guys are giving them credit for. I mean, they're not doing poorly at all. Like, they've had decent CSL results. So I mean, they most likely 5N would have won, but
Yeah, yeah.
I think you guys are underselling them a little bit.
I don't know if I would disagree. I don't know if we're underselling them because again, as much as they did okay, I want to say in their fall portion, they barely beat Riverside. They beat Concordia, which is really closer to a D2 team than a D1 team, 16-0. They didn't do great versus UC Berkeley. They lost clearly to UCI and to UCSD. So. They're not showing themselves as a team that should be winning against the top 1, 2 teams or 3, maybe even 3 teams of each conference, depending how you look at it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I was talking to Maza Peraza, and because he's the captain of that team now, I think he said he was getting a couple of new players. So, maybe the look of this team now is different compared to the fall. Because I know whenever I casted their teams like in the fall, just like their T sides were just so bad. Like they just couldn't get anything going. I think their CT sides are fine, but their T sides were definitely a huge problem. And I think I made it clear to them that like, hey, if you guys can make your T sides better, fix up some of that kind of stuff, then you guys could be a contender. And if they brought on some new players to be able to accomplish that, maybe that's the case.
They did bring on new players. It looks like from just the amount of players on the roster and then the difference between last semester. I don't know which players got switched out, but I think that whatever kick in the pants he gave him, it worked. And that forfeit win, like, I don't want to underplay that too much because that forfeit win against 5N basically gives them the opportunity to top the conference.
Yeah, they could. Yeah.
Which is that's a huge thing.
First round again.
They could have it.
Oh my god, I would laugh so hard if you guys got matched up against them again.
Hilarious.
You need to do a tactical loss, I think.
Tactical ESEA loss. You lose the first or second game and just get matched up against the other 0-1 OT team.
Yeah, but then we just get Robert Morris instead.
Oh, yeah.
That's just lose for us.
Looking at this group, again, I don't want to hark the point of a team, a 4-team playoff contender squad, but you have UCSC, Lambton, SUNY, and then Cooney, and then Boston as well, right? I mean, Boston is still a team that could probably perform, decent, could be a nice first to 2 or even a second round contender in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, to me, it's like if if 3 teams are coming out of this group, it's Boston, 5N, and UCSC.
Yep.
But if there's like a 4th spot that comes out of it, on face value, I want to say SDSU has it, but because Lambton's kind of a really shaky
SDSU
team against really good teams. Like against really good teams, they're shaky, but against teams around their level, they compete.
Well, we'll find out soon too, because their only wins are against ETS and San Diego State. So they have all the better teams, I want to say, in their group coming up, and so they'll be tested to see if they are if they are a playoff team, or at least it could be a playoff team here coming up. All right, one final group. We have Conference 1, and that is UC San Diego at 3-0, Wisconsin and Alabama trailing them at 2-1, Simon Fraser 1-1, Rochester Institute of Tech or RIT at 1-1. Ottawa 0-1, Texas Tech 0-1, and Arizona State 0-3, and that is because Arizona State is out. Ottawa, they are not playing, right?
I don't believe they are.
Nope.
Yeah, so they are out too as well. I don't know, is Texas Tech playing? Texas Tech, is TTU even in here?
I don't think they were.
Let me double check here on.
No, they're not.
Are they taking FFLs too as well? It looks like they're taking FFLs as well. So 3 teams on the bottom completely axed out of the way. So every team is going to get at least 3 free wins here in Conference 1.
Plus, Alabama's a pretty free win too. I just hate Alabama as a school. So.
Oh my god, they're actually really nice CSGO guys. I've talked to them before. They're actually really passionate and trying to get the whole esports program going there, because it's just not a thing that they've had there at that school for a while. So
I'm sure they're great. I just dislike Alabama.
Yeah, it's a stigma definitely for those people that watch college sports and in general. That Alabama's not exactly the most loved university.
They're like the Patriots of college football, are they not?
Pretty much at this point, yeah. At the end of the day, UCSD probably coming out on top, right?
Yeah.
RIT should pick their stuff up towards the end and probably finish number 2.
Yep.
Would I be wrong in saying that?
They had a pretty close game against Triton or against UCSD. I think they lost 16-11 on Overpass, which is pretty. It's not a terrible result.
Yep.
And then probably to trail it out, you'll have Wisconsin and Simon Fraser, and then Alabama in that 5th slot. Is there any props or hype to Simon Fraser at all in terms of being able to do anything here? Mahon, are you familiar with them since they're kind of close to you?
Yeah, I know one of their players, my man Yasa, if he's in the stream, he's probably like their only player that can make anything happen on this team if they're going to take third, because he's just been dropping bombs for them.
Do you think that they'll finish up ahead of Wisconsin, though?
I think they have a shot. I think it'll be a close game.
I think they could do it as well. I agree with that. That one's going to be like the determining factor.
And they're playing in their final week of the spring, too, as well. So that could be an interesting matchup to keep an eye on as this group tries to unfold. But yeah, most likely UCSD finishing atop here. All right. So we went kind of through all the groups, and you guys can obviously go to the cstarleague.com to check them out yourselves to see all the spring and the fall standings and what we were talking about and make some of your own assumptions and stuff like that. Looking at playoffs, though, just a couple minutes. Who do you guys see as some of the top contenders now that you're seeing everything kind of unfold? Who do you see as some of the top teams that are going to be competing? Top 2, top 3, top 5. Like, who are you expecting to perform really well when it comes to playoff time and make land?
Anybody can take this away. I feel like I kind of already made my case with the power rankings. So,
I guess. The team that I'm actually looking, not to be biased here, but
hold the press, everybody. Mahon's got to take.
Are you about to talk about UBC?
No, but okay. So I think like the top teams right now, like I'm not gonna lie, like UBC, they're not putting in the time really, right? Like in comparison to some of these other schools like Boulder, like Boulder's putting in the time. They're doing really well right now. UBC, I can't quite say they're doing the same, right? If what Solgo said about RMU is true as well, right? Like RMU's putting the time as well. So, I mean, UBC might have the skill, but I don't see the urgency from them. That's why I'm saying.
I think UBC does have a significant advantage over a lot of other teams like us, in the sense that I don't know how they did it, but they somehow got a main roster that they've turned into their own team. I'm 99% sure that they didn't. They definitely didn't qualify for main.
No, we didn't.
But you guys had like 3 people on a main roster somehow, and you just took it over, pretty much. So you get to huge advantage in that you get to constantly practice against other like main level teams in ESCA, as well as just play 16 ESCA matches against them. Yeah. Because even if you lose all of those games, like that's still like if you actually take the time to actually learn from the loss, that's huge advantage.
See, I thought they earned that main spot, which kind of factored into my decision to put them at number 3 instead of you guys. So, and then the fact that Mahone over here is holding out information about their practice quality on me right now is making me look really bad.
I think they went like 5-11 or something last season.
No, the season we played, we went 7-9 from last CSL season. So it's not great, but it's okay.
It's not terrible.
That's really good.
Any thoughts on any deep run dark horses? A UCI, a Carleton,
UCI could make it.
San Jose State, maybe. Anybody?
No, I'm actually looking more for as far as dark horses. I think Carleton might be a dark horse here.
Yep,
much more than San Jose State. I think it depends.
Texas A&M, Toronto, like these are schools that have it in them right now. If they just turn on the Jets, they could do it. But it's whether they decide to, as a team, that they're going to do it for these two. I think.
Say brackets are balanced out perfectly. Would say slotting in Baruch, RMU, CU, and then who would be your fourth?
Honestly, I don't think Baruch would make top 4 with how they're currently playing. I think with like how they're playing right now, if they have perfect brackets, they're going to go into the round of 8 and play against a team like UCI or maybe Carleton that like is consistently practicing together, consistently playing together at UCI or at an IM level. I think Mahone said that Carleton have an IM team as well.
They do.
Like if they go into the top 8 against a team like that, then I think they're not going to win that game.
Honestly,
not in a best of 3.
Honestly, I'm actually probably should be betting against UBC either. For some reason, like I don't know what is up with your school, but like come springtime, like all your teams, like all the games, like all of a sudden just like turn it on, like League of Legends, Dota 2, like every I'm like it's like a damn shame that you guys don't have a StarCraft 2 team this year, or you guys would somehow figure out how to make it to the finals with that team as well, there as well. So it's like It's weird. You guys end up like somehow managing to turn it on, and it's not like you guys get a huge benefit out of the bracket, bracket draws either as well. You just end up performing pretty well. So, I don't know. Any general thoughts on, I guess, how the season is going as well, and what you're seeing this year compared to previous years? Anything that you guys are liking? Anything you guys are hoping to see here in the next coming weeks or months?
I mean, I think, like I said it in one of the first articles of the season, just because like last season I wasn't part of the CSL team, but I did pay kind of close attention. I've been like following Collegiate Esports since back in the NCS days. I was casting for them like way back in the day, so I do kind of pay attention. But at the same time, like it seems like this year that like skill ceiling is just it keeps climbing a little bit, but this year it seems like it took like a bigger jump than it has any other years, and that might just come down to schools are putting in more time this year. Esports is getting more legitimacy. Scholarships are happening. These players are not only wanting to practice more together, they're almost being enforced to practice more together in certain cases. So
Yeah.
I think the skill ceiling is like much higher than it was before, and you can't take any opponent lightly, especially in this half.
One thing I really want to see, like this season in particular, I really want to see Robert Morris just raffle stomp through the playoffs. On it, like in all honesty, as much as I want to win CSL, I really want Robert Morris to just, because they're like the only school with a Counter-Strike, like with a varsity Counter-Strike team that has scholarships, and I really want them to perform so that other schools will notice and be like, hey, maybe if we want our teams to compete, we should give scholarships for Counter-Strike, pretty much.
The League of Legends theory, where everybody just got sick and tired of RMU and Maryville stomping through everybody for
Yeah,
like three years straight.
much.
They're just like, all right, we got to start up programs. Like enough is enough. Like we got these
For the
private
scene as a
colleges
whole, I
beating us.
think the best case scenario is just Robert Morris just raffle stomping through the playoffs. Like it might make it really boring this season or next season too, but overall, I think that would be really beneficial for CSL.
Gonna walk in next year to the AD or the president of CU just with like a packet and pamphlet presentation, be like, see, this is what happens if you support your program. Like, support us,
Or
we'll get to the finals. Or here we go.
Or if Boulder actually played RMU in the finals and they won, then they can tell them it's like, hey, we beat a scholarships team, so where's our scholarships, right?
Yeah, but they'll just be greedy and say, yeah, well, you clearly don't need just won
This is true.
$10,000. You don't need anything.
This is true.
They won't even pay for our jerseys right now because they don't want us to be able to use them for fundraising.
Wow,
Is
that's
the
ridiculous.
reason that they gave. Yeah, it's because I know the football team definitely can't do that. They totally don't use their jerseys for fundraising or anything.
You would love. I remember my freshman year looking at the tuition fees and like just like the random like fee, like the breakdown of like where the money was going, and like to build like this, to fund this, to build that, to fund this. I'm just like, the hell is this money going to? Like come on. And so a school like by the way, a school like CU, they have a shit ton of money. They have so much. They have so much money. So
Yep, it's very frustrating.
Building or funding a scholarship esports team for like a CSGO or League of Legends would be just chump change compared to what they spend, especially recently, like for like athletic changes. Like I don't know if you pay attention to the football team, but CU football team got like all sorts of new athletic improvements and different additions that over the years that have just cost millions and millions. So all of you damn NCAA schools, shame on you. Spend your money better. And
also, I think Utah, they also have a varsity esports. So they're like the first Power 5 team to or school
they're
to get
getting
them.
there. It's an
I don't think they have Counter-Strike though.
It's an obscure program right now at the current moment. So they're trying to obviously make it resemble like an athletic scholarship, an athletic program, but they're having to go through different avenues to make it happen. It's not like directly athletically, if I'm not mistaken, related. But yeah, hopefully in the future, especially with a game like CSGO, which I don't think is going to be going anywhere for a long time, really could use the support and the stability and foundation for futures, especially for teams that are looking to get into college esports. This is a really easy game to tag yourself along on. Outside of the Disney-esque, we don't like guns attitude, but that's its own like type of thing. That's its own thing that eventually stigma will win over. So
yeah, that's like the toughest thing though, too. Yeah,
because all the schools are just scared. Well, it has terrorists and bombs. We don't want to touch that. Let's go touch Overwatch. It has fun anime characters or whatever. It's so annoying. Overwatch League has like Overwatch League has like 300,000 peak viewers. Major has like 1.3 million.
Yeah.
Slight difference there.
Yeah, it's a huge I mean, it's a huge stigma just for the nature of
Yeah.
Counter-Strike because it's so like, and let's be like, if you're an actual gamer, you know that Counter-Strike has like very little realism in it as far as like actually how guns work, how war works, and all that stuff.
They perfectly encapsulate how an AK-47.
Yeah, you have to point it at the
I have
ground to
no
get the
idea what you're
scope
talking
there.
Yeah,
It's like it's.
the more you shoot a gun, the more the barrel bends because it's heating up. You see,
But to them, it looks
how it
real
works.
compared to these
Yeah.
fantasy characters. So it's tough for that
you
stigma
can
to
just
go
turn
away.
on
can't.
the child safety mode or whatever, so that no one dies. They just surrender with their hands up.
What, two
low balance
years ago, kids practicing
Yeah.
on campus sliding op shots. Like, that'll be great. But yeah, no, I mean, structurally for a game like CS:GO, it's so unbelievably easy to understand the objective, the play
It's
style.
the best viewer esport by far.
Again, through my whole career of like getting into esports and like all of this stuff, like at some point I've always had to show like my family, like, this is this tournament for this final, this is this tournament for this final of this game. And Dota 2 was one that I tried to like kind of push a little bit more, and it was still complicated to understand because what the hell is going on? You got cartoon characters running around, there's splashes of color everywhere, and if you don't know the abilities, you don't really know what the hell's going on. So in CS:GO, it's pretty damn simple: shoot, kill, plant, bomb, or defuse. Like, from a fundamental standpoint, it's a great game to build esports around. That's very easy to understand. Even and again, it's in the same genre. It's an FPS, but it's a different FPS than Overwatch. Overwatch is, again, chaotic, just shooting and people running around, all sorts of different abilities. Unless you actually know what's going on, it's very hard for the spectator to consume.
Yeah.
So for me, always CS:GO, and then like right below that, StarCraft 2, like, are the two easiest like esports games to like truly consume, compared to everything else. But Rocket League 2, not bad. I love Rocket League. It has a warm place in my heart that I still will love to see someday in the CSL in the near future. I will commentate.
What about Vainglory, guys?
We already got that. It's good.
I know.
It's another cartoony mobile splash.
But do you guys not watch that at all? Like, you not know? I'm poking fun at it because it's a mobile game.
What about Forza?
Look, you know what I would love if we got like one of the F1 games, like if we got one of the F1 games like to sponsor and to like run it. I would love that, because like, while you guys see me do CSL stuff, then there's me also outside of the CSL, where I'm up at like 4 a.m. watching like the Monaco GP of like Formula 1, and that's why like the next day I'm like just bloodshot eyes tired as I'm getting everything done. So like those type of stuff, I would love to see all those additions. Like, get NHL in here, get FIFA in here. Like, I'd love all of those because those are easy to consume games. But when it comes to major big esports, obviously CS:GO, unanimously probably the best one to consume, and the easiest one to consume too as well.
Definitely. My dad watched the major with me on like my TV in my living room. It was like one of the coolest experiences in my life. Like, he had all these questions, but like he could understand what was going on without me explaining it to him. So I can definitely understand that.
That's awesome.
One of my teammates summed this up perfectly when we were talking about this a while back. He drew these MS Paint graphs that were very beautiful, might I add. It was basically just like MOBAs, like League of Legends and Dota, where just like nothing's happening, then like with occasional spikes, and then like by the end it's just like the excitement level just spikes up all the way up to the top for like 20 minutes, and then just like, so it's just like so much is happening that you just have no idea what actually happened until it's already done. Same thing with like Overwatch, where just like constantly just like everything's happening, then like everyone dies and everything's happening. It's just like there's way too much happening.
I found Heroes of the Storm complicated, and I was like, there's like hardly any heroes in that game.
Well, yeah, fundamentally, like the foundation of it, you have like limited time differences. It's almost like a shot. It's almost kind of like, similarly, you're looking at it, you're working with like a shot clock in a sense.
Yeah.
So you have to get something done within that time frame, and people, whenever you can, at least, again, esports doesn't need to head down the road of sports in every single way, shape, and form, but there are a lot of practices and practicality that it could take away from sports, and CS:GO has that without doing it on purpose either. So it's not not like the rounds things was made like on purpose to like mimic sports. It's just It was
Yeah.
what the algorithm and the time that they decided for it, so it ended up being a good thing. All right, we have gone for an hour and 40 minutes. Obviously, we stayed really well inside that typical 30-minute time frame that we usually do, so hopefully we'll put some timestamps at the very end, so if you guys want to consume the fall, the spring, and the playoff predictions and some of the late game banter here, you guys can catch that. Thank you for everybody to showing up. Slogo, throw some final words. Any shout outs, any cool stuff going on over at CU? Yeah, by the way, anything going on over at CU? I'm like an hour away. Well, like an hour 15. I'm down in the Springs.
Well, I just want to say thanks to Monty because he's been doing a lot of work. He's been trying really hard to get a lot of stuff done, but a lot of it has not ended up working out. Like we've been trying to get like a bunch of lands, like because Mile High Esports, I don't know if you know Smoke, who owns that. He's nearby, so we're trying to do stuff with like him and like Clutch Gaming Arena because there's a few LAN centers nearby, but nothing's quite materialized yet. But I just want to say thanks to him for putting in a lot of time and effort trying to get stuff going.
You guys need to talk to Carbon. I don't know if you guys know Carbon. They kind of stick around the Blizzard Sports arena of like Overwatch and stuff like that. But if you get them to focus in on like CSGO and some other games, I think that'd be really fun for you guys too as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like weird. We have like enough like minor structure to build something up here in like Colorado, but for some reason we just like we can't continue to get the notoriety and get big. It's a really weird place to be in for gaming and esports, to be honest. Like in Colorado,
it's I mean, this is like a mountain pun for Colorado, but it's like a plateau, right?
Yeah, we're kind of caved off in a sense, like away from everybody.
I don't know. I feel like in the future we can get. I think we can have really good esports infrastructure, like once esports grows more, because like Denver and is such a big hub because it has like obviously a massive airport that connects like everything across North America, essentially, as well as just like a lot of people used to live in Denver and do live in Denver right now. A lot of companies are in Denver in general, and then like CU Boulder, like we've had a little bit of help with some stuff just because people are CU Boulder alumni, not Crackshot or anything, but like other people, like important people, or not Cheesehead, not Crackshot. I'm sorry.
Hey, I just recently actually got out of that game. You'd be surprised, like how big like StarCraft 2 got like between like 2011 and 2014, and helped out with like League of Legends and like all these other games that we ended up in Dota 2 as well, building up for a while. We just never ended up doing anything with like CSGO for some damn reason. So I will take some of the responsibility for that. But yeah, we organized quite a bit. I feel like we peaked when MLG Aspen came around, and then we doubled up with ClutchCon. I don't know if anybody remembers that damn land.
That was the best LAN ever with no delays, right?
Yeah. Did you happen to go there live by chance? Were
no, I was still living in South Carolina at the time.
The greatest LAN. I talked to Justin. I talked to Justin now. He works with DreamHack, but he's the one that operated Clutch back in the day, and he created ClutchCon. And we laugh about it every time because we're like, that's the greatest LAN ever created. Just like in the middle of a CS:GO like major match with you're talking about. We have like Fallen and like the C9 like guys all playing. Yeah. You got this like Chinese dragon performance coming through. All of a sudden all the lights come off, you hear big draws, everybody's like, the heck is going on right now? Just like had to pause the matches and everything. I
hope this is on video somewhere.
This is on video somewhere. It's the funniest damn thing I've ever been a part of in my life, and we always joke about it as the greatest LAN that ever was. So
sounds like it.
But yeah, it had a huge major back-to-back because they had MLG Aspen the week before, and then we had that one, so we had a lot of major teams out here playing, and so it was really funny. But
DreamHack Denver was out here recently as well. Yep. I was really hoping they'd bring it back this year, but it doesn't look like they're going to. Not DreamHack, at least.
Yeah, I don't think they are going to, but it ended up being a big LAN. Broke a lot of NA numbers, at least for them, is one of the biggest ones that they've had. So Colorado ended up showing up on the worst weekend to host it too as well. They had TwitchCon that weekend. There was another CSGO LAN somewhere else, and so for all those like factors that were conflicting, it ended up being like actually an enormous LAN. So Colorado can show up if we do host stuff here. So, Zach, on to you.
Shouts out to all of the people who actually tweet me back on Twitter. It's nice to actually have an interaction with people. I know it's kind of my job to make people mad, but I hope I also made some people happy with that list. At the same time, also, I guess the only major person I want to give a shout out to is whoever the beautiful human being that runs UCF's Twitter is. They get a shout out.
Gotcha. Mahone, what do you got going on? You playing Forza? On occasion, I see it pop up. On occasion, I see it.
Yeah, so thank you everybody who's watched so far, and continue to support us. All our casts, all our streams, and all our Twitters as well. It definitely means a big thing for us, and Collegiate Esports is just growing at this rate.
Cool. As for me, doesn't matter what I have to say, but what you guys should do is definitely check out Monday and Wednesday, where you could catch Zach and Mahone's beautiful faces pop up at 4 p.m. Pacific and 7 p.m. Pacific weekly. We have 4 more weeks of spring broadcasts before we head into playoffs. 3 of those are official weeks, and then the final one we will supplement with broadcast from the reschedule weeks. So be sure to do that. Follow us at Collegiate CSGO on Twitter, and as well just help support the Collegiate Star League at C Star League. If you enjoyed Solgoat, he is down there at Solgoat, and if you want to check out the CU Esports Twitter as well, it is Boulder at Boulder Esports. If you guys are interested in what they're doing, be curious to see for me as well how kind of that pack forms up, and if they get involved in stuff like CSGO as well. That'd be really cool. I hope that day comes pretty shortly. Other than that, guys, for those that are watching live, if you are a League fan, we got League Varsity coming up on Saturday and Sunday at 12 and 3 p.m. Pacific. Other than that, Quad's back next week at 7 p.m. Pacific. We'll probably do a Dota 2 edition of it. And that is it. Wish everybody a good weekend.
Ryerson UCF Monday. Be there. Watch it.
Yeah, that's gonna be. I guess. Sorry for the anime betrayal, Sakura. You get a shout out too.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's gonna do it.